Hello and welcome to Mr. Tompkins Edtech. In this video I'll be taking a deep dive into the assignment tool in Microsoft Teams. I'll be showing you how to set a homework or assignment task for your class online via the Teams assignment tool. We'll take a look at how resources and worksheets can be distributed along with the task and how you can collect these back in once students have completed it. I'll demonstrate how you can grade students' work and provide them individualized feedback on the task that they've completed. Finally, I'll be showing you how, as a teacher, you can keep an overview of all the tasks being completed so you can easily spot who is completing work and who isn't. Throughout, I'll be sharing real-life examples of how I'm using Teams in my own classes, so you'll know that the stuff actually works in the wild, and I'll be sharing tips and tricks that are tried and tested in my own virtual classrooms. I'm sure you'll find something here that you can pick up and start using straight away with your own classes. So if you're interested in using Teams to set work online, then keep watching. If you find this video useful, please do drop it a like by clicking on the thumbs up below. This really helps out my channel and will propel this video along and hopefully help it reach a larger audience. I produce lots of practical videos on using Office 365 for teaching. So if you're interested in teaching online and how you can make better use of EdTech tools to improve learning and make your busy teaching life just a little bit easier, consider subscribing to my channel by pressing the big red button below. It just means YouTube will be a little bit more likely to suggest my videos to you in future. Tap the bell and you'll also get notified each time I upload new content. Okay, let's get started. And first up, setting assignments. Let's take a look at Teams and where to find the assignment tool. Note that I'm using the full desktop client version of Teams here, not the one you get via your browser. If you're looking at Teams now and there is a browser bar at the top, either Chrome or Edge or Firefox or whatever, then you're using the Teams web app and not the full desktop client. The web app is pretty good actually, but it does miss a few key features here and there. So if you're starting to use Teams more regularly with your classes, I do highly recommend installing the full desktop client. There's normally a download button here on the left side, or you can just follow the link I've dropped in the description below the video. So here we are in my Teams client. Now you can access assignments in two ways. You can either click on the Assignments tab from the left-hand side panel here. You'll then be presented with a list of all your classes or teams that you're part of, and you can drill down on the class you actually want to create the assignment for. Alternatively, if you're already in a particular class team, then you'll find a tab at the top here for assignments. This tends to be the way I find my way there, usually because I'm already in a particular class group when I think about setting them work. So here I am in my Year 10 groups assignments, and you can see it's subdivided into three sections: drafts, assigned, and marked. I haven't currently got any in drafts, but if you start creating a task and then leave off before you've finished it for some reason, you should find that it's sitting in drafts and you can open it and finish it off at a later date. Assigned will contain recently set tasks that still need to be completed by students or marked by the teacher. The mark section contains completed tasks that you've already fed back on. You can also filter your list by assignment category using this funnel here. I'll show you more about these in a moment. Notice it gives me some information here as well about how many students have done the work and kindly reminded me that I still have to review these tasks. We'll take a look at some of this a bit later on in the video. Here I have a Create button which will allow me to set a new assignment, so let's give that a go. When you click on it, it gives you three options. You can either choose from existing, which will let you choose a previous task to rubber stamp rather than creating a new one from scratch. This is very handy and I use this feature a lot. The quiz option takes you to a special widget which will let you pick out a Microsoft Forms quiz or survey that you've pre-made. Finally, the assignment option is just a blank assignment template, and this is the one I'm going to go through here. So the template itself is very straightforward. You can give it a title and you can also assign it a category. I use this to help the student identify what type of task it is. So for me, I might identify that I'm using a particular website like MyMaths or MathsWatch, or I want them to work in OneNote or in their exercise books. Next, you have a box for giving instructions for the task. You have some good basic text editing tools here, so you can easily add numbering or bullet points or highlight or bold key bits of information. You have plenty of space to give as much detail as you like. Underneath that you have the Add Resources button, which lets you attach all sorts of documents to your assignment. This might just be something you want them to read, or it could be a ready-made answer grid or template that you want them to complete and return to you. We'll have a look at this in a bit more detail later in the video. Next up we have Points, which allows you to assign a numerical grade value to your students' work. If you want to, you can tap this Add Rubric button to create some really detailed marking structures, complete with grade descriptors and weightings. At the moment though, I'm just using this to keep track of whether students have done the task or not, which I'll show you about later. Assign to is pre-filled with the group you were in when you created the task. If you have parallel classes, you can assign the same task to more than one group by adding it in here, allowing you to send the same task to all your groups simultaneously, which could be a real time saver for some of you. The next box allows you to choose individual students to assign the task to. It's defaulted to all students, but you can tap on it and pick out particular students to set work for. So this should allow you to differentiate work within the class. So you might have a small group of very bright children you want to give a more challenging task to, or you might have students who you feel need to be given more scaffolding. This tool will allow you to target those subgroups in a very low-key way. Due date and time is where you want the task to be completed by. Once you're done, click and assign and will distribute the task immediately to your students. If you'd rather schedule the task, you can do that too. I've been doing that a lot at the moment, normally setting the work up for the whole week on a Monday, but scheduling the tasks so that they only show up for the student on the day they normally have their lessons. That way the students are not overloaded with all the tasks at the start of the week. In this box you can also specify when tasks close. Tasks are open-ended by default, which means that if you miss the deadline you can still hand the task in. It will record that it was late, but you can still submit it to the teacher. If you set a close date, the task will lock on that day and no further changes can be made to the task. Which you choose will depend very much on your own teaching style and the task that you set. I usually allow late turn-ins as I'd rather that they catch up on the work at some point in the future. I've had new students who have arrived mid-year and who have off their own gone back and done all the previous tasks that I've set for the class, which I thought was amazing and not something that you would expect to happen if I'd set the work in any other way. So all in all, you've got quite a few different options here for setting up your tasks that should meet the needs of most teachers. If there is something that it doesn't do that you think it should, then Microsoft are very good at listening to teachers' needs and will add popular suggestions into the tool. You can add your suggestions to the Use the Voice website and also upvote any other user suggestions that you like. Teams is in very active development, and you'll see that the most popular feature requests are quickly added into the app. Okay, so that pretty much wraps up the basic assignment tool. Let's take a look at the different types of resources you can attach to an assignment and how Teams distributes these to students and how you can later collect in their work. Coming back to the assignment template, you'll remember that there was this Add Resources button that you can press, which takes you to this pop-up dialog box. From here you can choose to add resources from your computer, from your OneDrive, or from your Teams group file section. You can also add a page in here from your linked OneNote class notebook, which is really handy. So let's say you have an information sheet stored as a Word document on your OneDrive. You just need to tap here, navigate to the folder where your document is and then select it. You can actually select multiple files at once, which is really nice. Once selected, you'll see that they appear here underneath the description. Under the file name, notice that it reads Students Can't Edit. Now, if this was a fact sheet and you just want your students to read it and then do their work somewhere else, then this is perfectly fine. Your students will be able to read the document but not make any changes for others to see. Now some files can't be edited anyway, like PDFs, so this is the default setting when you add most resource types to your assignment. But let's suppose you did want them to do their work electronically on the Word document. So instead of a simple fact sheet, you want to create a questions and answers grid style template where you ask the questions and leave a box or some space for the student to write their responses. Teams can handle this really well and is really a great way of distributing this sort of work to students. Notice at the end of this Word document link there are 3 epsilons, which in Office 365 always means you have some options to pick from. Here we see some choices for opening or downloading the file, but at the top here we see 2 options. Students can edit their own copy and students can't edit, which is the one that's currently ticked. Now ticking the top option instead will change what Teams does with the file. Instead of keeping a nice pristine copy that all your students can read but can't change, it's going to duplicate that document and send each student their own personal copy of the file. Your students can then open their own personal copy, work directly in the document by typing or inking their responses, and then once they are done, they simply close the document, come back to Teams and tap Hand In. They don't have to faff around with downloading the file, saving it somewhere and then sending their file back to you. This is all done seamlessly by Teams. You can actually still see their progress even if they haven't tapped Hand In, but getting them to do this is a good idea as it gives you a clear signal that they think they've done the work, and will also move the assignment out of yours and their active to-do list and into yours and their done list within Teams. For those of you who are using OneNote with your students, and you really should because it's awesome, you can also attach a page from your content library within your linked class notebook. Teams will distribute that page for you, so each student will get a copy of the page in their own section within OneNote. This is actually my preferred medium for sharing work with students because OneNote has great editing tools on mobile devices for students to work with, supporting both text typing and digital ink, and it also keeps all their work from different lessons together in one place for them to go back and look at. As an alternative to distributing a document for students to work on, I often ask them to take a photo of their work and attach it to the task. Students have a similar attach work button on their own view of the task, so they can easily attach files and photos of their work which they can turn in as evidence of them completing the task. We'll take a look at some examples of this along with other assignments that I've set my groups in the past up next. Okay, so we've looked at some different ways to set up tasks for students. Let's take a look at some assignments I've set my class so you can see what it looks like from the teacher's perspective when the task has been completed and it's ready to mark. So let's have a look at this first task here. Clicking on the task takes me to a summary page which will firstly show students work that still needs marking. Actually, I've already graded this task, so there's nothing here to see. But if I tap on the marked header, you can see that I get a list of all my students, the status of the task, and a feedback button and a grade. Now this is an example of a very basic task as I'm simply directing them to a maths website where they should do their work. Clicking up here on Student View will show you how it looks from their perspective. I've just given them instructions on how to find the site and log in, and how to access the task that I've set up for them. Notice the immersive reader icon up here on the right. This is embedded in Teams, so if your students struggle with reading, they can use this tool to make the task much easier for themselves, or even get the instructions read out for them. If you're not familiar with Immersive Reader, then why not check out this video for more information on this great tool. You can see at the bottom of the task I've added some links to the website and to a help page with tips on logging in, and that's it. No other resources or files for me to share, and I'm not expecting them to return anything here as I can always go to the website and check on their progress directly. What I do want to do here is keep track on who's actually completing the task and who isn't, so I've adopted a simple scoring system and I'm using the grade box to log this. So 2 means it's completed, 1 means they partially completed it, and 0 means they haven't done it at all. So coming back to my group, you can see I've entered these scores into this grade column. You can actually edit them here. Just tap on one and you can edit it here in the page. When I fill these in, I had the browser open on the results page from the website, I'd used, so I just filled it down this list with 2s, 1s and 0s, matching the work they'd done on the other site. Didn't take very long to do. Now the reason I do this is so I can keep an overview of who's working and who isn't all in one place. Students also get these grades back so they can use them to help them identify any missed tasks and backfill any gaps. In this next task, I wanted students to make some revision cards on topics we had been studying. I attached a simple Word document where students could paste a photo of their card, front and back, and hand that in. Now if I click on the student's name here, it will take me to a screen showing me their work, and it includes a text box to give feedback and a grade box to give it a score. Now some students managed to do this and just as I intended, but quite a few just attached the photos to the task rather than embedding them in the page like I'd asked. Okay, not quite what I was expecting, but it was easier for them to attach the task, attach the photos that way, and actually quicker for me to see. So when I set a similar task in future, then perhaps I just might ask them to attach the photos directly. In this next one, students were given a test paper that had been prepped in Word and were asked to write or ink their answers into the document. Now you can see that this student has helpfully chosen to answer in font size 100, just in case I can't read it. The next student used digital ink. I think they've done it on an iPad and written it in with their finger or a stylus. This next student has typed in their answers and then marked it with digital ink. I provided the students on video so they were able to watch this and check their own work. Finally, this student decided to do the work in their exercise book. You can see that they've taken a photo of their work and attached it to the task, and I'm able to see this directly within Teams. In the feedback box, you can see I've asked him about why the work wasn't marked, and he had gone back and done this and then re-uploaded the completed task. Currently, there is just one text box for teacher feedback, so I've just written my follow-up comment under the original one. I think this is a bit of a limitation and would like to see more of a threaded conversation here and the ability for students to respond. It used to have this in Microsoft Classrooms, the forerunner of the assignment tool, so I'm hoping that they will bring this feature back at some point in the future. You can see that I've just used my classic 210 for the grade. This next task I was using some self-marking worksheets called Living Worksheets that were written in Excel years ago. We used to use them a lot back in the day, but then they kind of fell away when we moved more towards online resources. The assignment tool has kind of breathed new life into them though, so they work great on the iPads, which is what most of our students are using, and the fact that they give you instant feedback means I don't have to do a lot of marking. I can quickly see the task is completed, drop a comment, move on to the next student. With feedback, I often paste in a block of comments and delete the bits that don't apply, which tends to go quite quickly. So here I've got a bunch of what went wells and even better ifs, which will fit most students, and I might just write a few more bespoke messages where necessary. The final sort of assignment type I want to show you is using a OneNote page. For those that use class notebooks, you can create your master page in your content library, attach it to your task and get teams to distribute it for you. I like using OneNote pages for assignments as they are very versatile and students can easily add all sorts of things to the page. Photos, text, digital ink, and it's quite freeform, allowing them to move stuff around easily. So here you can see I've written the instructions for the task at the top of the page, and underneath the students have done their work. They had to find 5 household objects and arrange them in order of density, showing their method. So you can see that the students have used a wide range of styles and approaches, which I actually really like. If you like things more orderly, you can easily add a grid or boxes to encourage students to follow a more uniform style in their presentation. There are lots of other benefits of using OneNote, including the fact that everything remains ordered and in one place. They can keep their homeworks alongside their class notes, and everything in OneNote is fully searchable, even their handwritten scrawls and words appearing in images, so it's really easy for them to find things again. If you're interested in getting started with OneNote class notebooks, then I highly recommend you watch this video, which will give you an overview of how it works and instructions on how to get one set up for your class. If you're already using OneNote to share your own resources and want to learn more about getting students doing their work in OneNote too, then check out this follow-up video that goes through managing students' work in OneNote in much more detail. I find that often students have a strange habit of handing work back in again after I've marked it, which will annoyingly move the task back into the assigned section, waiting for me to remark it again. This seems to stem from a misunderstanding where students see I've sent their work back to them and then they automatically hand it back in again. I've tried to explain to them that they don't shove their exercise books straight back at me every time I hand them back after marking, so they don't really need to do this in teams either, but it's taken them some time to get fully understand the process, so expect to see something similar in your own classes at first. So we've seen how easy it is to set tasks, review students' work, provide feedback and give it a grade. Let's pull back and take a look at the bigger picture and how you can keep track of who's doing what. As well as the review screen where you can see individual tasks, there is also this grades tab at the top of your Teams group, which takes you to a simple gradebook overview page which lists all your students and the grade they received for each task. If you haven't already marked it, it will show the current status, whether the student has viewed it, handed it in, or has not even looked at it. You can edit marks directly in this screen or drill down on individual assignments to see them in more detail, or on an individual task to see a student's work. The gradebook is a relatively new addition to Teams, and it's still quite minimal for now, and I'd expect to see functionality improve over time as Microsoft reacts to teacher feedback and implements those ideas. But it's already providing quite a good overview of your class and will quickly allow you to see who's working and who consistently isn't completing your tasks. You can see that this student hasn't been working, so I can use this information to contact home, or perhaps I know they don't have a computer or internet access and have been sent work via mail. Now you might decide to grade yours differently or properly. That's for you to decide, but like I say, I'm currently just using this to keep track of who is doing tasks and who isn't. These grades can also be exported to Excel, so if you keep an electronic eMark book and you want to bring your data across into that, then it's reasonably easy to extract your Teams data and use it elsewhere. Now another new addition to Teams is this Insights tab here. This arrived in January and it's still in preview, so you have to add it in yourself if you want to use it. It's not hard, you just need to click on this plus symbol up here, scroll down or search for Insights, tap it and OK. It will add this extra tab at the top of your group, which gives you a bunch of interesting usage stats for your teams. The digital activity chart gives a very clear picture of which students are on the ball and which ones are not. I've been setting 4 maths lessons a week, so you can see that most of my students have been accessing Teams on those 4 occasions in the week, so I'm very happy with that. The average grade stats gives me a useful insight into who is consistently doing well and who isn't. I can see most of my class are doing a great job, but about a third of them here are not producing the goods for one reason or another. I've got some work here to do to try and keep these youngsters motivated and engaged. Again, you have the option to export this data to Excel, so you could easily pull it into your eMark book or use it for further analysis if you wished. So the Insights tab is still in preview, which means Microsoft are still developing the tool, so it's a good time to give feedback on what you like and what you don't. I found that there was some thumbs up, thumb downs underneath the various tables where you can give some direct feedback to Microsoft, so hopefully they'll look at that and make some improvements over the next few months. From a student's perspective, if they go into their assignments tab in Teams, they will see all their current assignments from all their different classes arranged by due date. They can also find their feedback and grades from various tasks. So this is going to really help them keep organised, as they don't have to write down the task themselves, they can't lose it, the dog can't eat it, and it will help them prioritise work so that they meet their deadlines. Microsoft have recently added the Parent Guardian Weekly Digest feature, where it will send parents a weekly email update on any current assignments due, along with any recent grades awarded. There is some behind the scenes work that your techies will need to do in order to get this feature working, but once it's switched on, it's all done automatically by the system and not an additional task for you as the teacher to think about. I'd suggest you have a think carefully about how to roll this out for your school, as you'd want staff to be using Teams reasonably well before you start involving parents and reporting on it. But this should solve the sort of problems where little Jimmy goes home and tells mummy he doesn't have any homework to do and should be allowed to go on his Xbox when actually he has quite a lot he could be getting on with. So that about wraps up the assignment tool deep dive. I really like the assignment tool and I think it's helped me in the first part of this year to be much more consistent with setting homework. I can set up the homework task at the same time as I plan my lesson, so I no longer get to class, get sidetracked and then totally forget to hand out the homework. I can also mark at a time that suits me and not one that it suits the class not to have their books, and I don't have to remember to collect in their work or lug heavy piles of books home. This is all done for me. Great stuff. Most recently during the lockdown, it's been an absolute godsend for keeping myself and my students organised and engaged on their online learning. Teams has become the main hub where I can engage with my students, set them tasks, discuss the work and answer their questions via the chat feature, and even kick off a live lesson using Microsoft Teams meetings. If you found this video useful, please do give it a like and consider subscribing to my channel. I try to upload videos regularly on Edtech, and I have a few more planned on OneNote and a new recording feature in PowerPoint that I think many of you will like, so keep an eye out for those. Until then, keep your hands clean and I'll see you on the next video.